So I had a lot to reflect on the other night as I walked out of a movie theater here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'd braved the cold winter air and rising Omicron rates in order to check out Belle. The newest film by Hosoda Mamoru, one of the most internationally beloved anime directors working today. On the pandemic front, I had bet that a subtitled showing of an anime film out on a Tuesday would mean a pretty empty theater, and I won that bet. Belle has garnered overwhelmingly positive reviews and major box office buzz back in Japan, where it raked in the second most yen of any film in 2021. All of this helped me overcome some wariness left over from the last Hosoda film I'd seen. That's 2015's The Boy and the Beast, Bakemono no Ko. All I knew about Belle was that the film used the French fairy tale Beauty and the Beast as a motif, and that it was supposed to present themes relating to digital fame. That, and of course, I'd seen the striking designs of the main character's digital avatar, present in every bit of Belle's promotional material. I have to be honest here though, what I was really hoping for was to finally see a new classic anime film, something of similar quality to Hosoda's own Wolf Children, Okami Kodomo no Ame to Yuki, from 2012. I saw that movie in the theater in Tokyo back in 2012. It immediately reignited a then waning appreciation for just how good films in the anime medium can really be. Belle, alas, isn't quite that movie. What it is, however, is interesting and timely, if perhaps narratively unfulfilling. Konnichiwa everyone, and welcome back to Unseen Japan. As always, I'm Noah Oskow, and today I'm taking a little break from looking at Japanese history and linguistic differences for a return to another of my favorite topics, Japanese film. Although who am I kidding, I managed to fit in some cultural analysis into this one too. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give us a like, leave a comment about your opinion of the film, and subscribe for more, and maybe even consider lending us some support over at Patreon. I've been really happy to see more people enjoying these videos recently. Thanks for helping us reach 5,000 subs. Tonikaku, let's get back to Hosoda Mamoru's world of you. Now, the first thing anyone familiar with Hosoda's work will notice in Belle, in Japanese titled Ryu to Sobakasu no Hime, the Dragon and the Freckled Princess, is the return of many of the director's themes and settings. In Belle, Suzu, our main character, is an isolated, socially anxious high schooler living in a rural setting in Kochi Prefecture, Shikoku. By the way, that is the same location as Studio Ghibli's Ocean Waves. A tragedy at a young age has left her depressed, detached, and avoidant, unable to properly pursue her only true passion, singing. Then, one day, Suzu's only close friend suggests that she make an avatar on the mega-popular online metaspace, You. Suzu uses the VR tech interface of the app to become the singer Belle, and finds herself, almost by accident, an anonymous online star overnight. Then, a chance encounter with the mysterious and powerful avatar known only as the Dragon, or Beast in the dub, gives her a new mission and purpose. Ever since his days working on Digimon, it's been clear that Hosoda has a keen sense for online culture that many of his industry forebears lack. Up till now, Summer Wars was the clearest example of this. That 2009 movie also focused on a lively social media world of anthropomorphic avatars. Belle's opening moments, where we're introduced via narration to the online world of You, have so much in common with similar scenes in Summer Wars that it almost feels like a retread. Thematically, however, the return of this almost identical setting is made worthwhile because of the cultural changes surrounding the internet over the past decade. Summer Wars had a sense for how children used online spaces to craft identities divorced from their painful real lives. Belle adds to that the more modern emergence of capricious online fame and social media stardom. By the way, fun fact, wanna know what anime Hosoda first cut his teeth on as a key animator? None other than episode 5 of the ridiculous 80s sleaze fest, Crying Freeman.
I'm crying Freeman.
Layered over this is a concern that's more prevalent in Japan than, say, America, that of online anonymity. In Japan, the majority of online social media is still the domain of usernames. Only a small percentage of Japanese people on online platforms use their real names. Even less
Fewer
would use an actual picture of themselves as their user pic. This desire to stay anonymous is in part why Facebook failed to fully take off in Japan, even at the height of its popularity in much of the rest of the world. Around the era of Summer Wars or even Wolf Children, Facebook still lagged behind the anonymous domestic platform Mixi. Not much has changed regarding anonymity in the years since, yet that desire is now on a crash course with visions of online fame. In 2019, a survey by insurance company Sony Life showed 30% of junior high school boys wanted to grow up to become YouTubers or online content creators. Not always the best choice, boys. YouTuber, by far the most popular future job choice for young boys, still held a strong third place among assumedly somewhat more realistically minded high school boys at 12.8%. Of course, it's worth noting that Belle is more oriented towards Japanese girls than boys. Here too, modern youthful aspirations play their part. In the same survey, the most popular choice for junior high school girls was singer, actress, voice actress, or performer. For high school girls, the same category also managed a significant third place. Idol bands, whether Japanese or Korean, are still all the rage. There's an entire genre of anime and manga based around stories of idol stardom wish fulfillment. Belle then deals with both of these modern phenomena, online and idol-style performing fame. This also occurs within an environment where being found out as a YouTuber can be hazardous to one's career. Many job contracts in Japan forbid secondary revenue streams, and public service jobs are even stricter thanks to the Local Public Service Act. The very month that I'm making this video, January 2022, Wakayama prefectural officials docked a firefighter's pay by 10% after an anonymous tip-off to his modest gaming channel. The man had never even shown his face on camera. Officials combed through hundreds of videos to fully identify his voice. So these two urges, one for anonymity, one for fame, are embodied in the rise of the VTuber. Emerging onto the Japanese online scene in 2016 in the form of CG anime girl Kizuna Ai, these motion capture avatars are now all the rage internationally. Often steeped in anime-style visualizations, VTubers can become major online celebrities in their own right. And yet they mostly function as live stream characters for their real-life counterparts to disappear into. The VTubing profession has even been compared to kayfabe in professional wrestling. VTubers will essentially become their characters, acting as though this online CG reality is in fact something that exists. This creates a sense of believability and escapism for their audience, as well as a perfect excuse for anonymity for the user behind the VTube channel. Belle portrays this era where major anonymous online fame has become possible via the avatar system within the world of you in the movie. In-app, Suzu becomes Belle. Suzu in Japanese means Belle, by the way. A beautiful avatar that even resembles the most popular girl in her real-world high school. Through this anonymous representation, she can escape her crippling anxiety, even regaining the use of her singing voice. Thanks to music, graphics, and staging production supplied by her best friend in an extremely hand-wavy fashion, admittedly, Belle then rockets to worldwide online fame. Fame, of course, brings with it the harsh reality of being the target of online callousness. More than that, however, it brings with it an overwhelming desire by the online public to unmask the anonymous starlet. Just as many long wondered about the voice behind Kizuna Ai, an identity finally revealed in 2020, just who Belle might be is made a topic of frenzied discussion. The same is true of the bruising, rule-breaking beast of this tale. His own identity becomes the main mystery of the film. Suzu/Belle herself is almost immediately and, in my opinion, somewhat confusingly obsessed with finding out the beast's true self. These are all fascinating themes presented in this film with a sense of actual understanding on the part of the production. So often, films and television will attempt to tackle internet cultural stories only to fall flat on their faces.
What is internet anyway?
Other times, they're literal ads for online platforms. Looking at you, Ralph Breaks the Internet. For better or worse, you can tell that Hosoda isn't just an online poser, and the heady subject matter doesn't end there. The movie also focuses on depression, anxiety, loss, and in an almost too real turn, abuse. But here's the problem. the overwhelming sense that Belle left me with is that of being personally conflicted. The movie has so many interesting themes, often presented in a visually interesting fashion. The attention of Belle's innumerable fans physically embodied on the digital landscape of you inescapably surround her in an undulating mass. I mean, that's a great visual shorthand. Yet as a narrative, as a movie really, it doesn't fully come together. The film is almost surreal in terms of its editing and pacing, creating a confusing sense of unreality that doesn't seem as planned as it should. The Beauty and the Beast motif doesn't really map onto the story very well. And sometimes it feels like an afterthought, while other times the movie suddenly seems to be remaking shots from the classic Disney film. And as good as some parts of this movie look, the comparison in terms of direction and animation quality between these scenes and their counterparts from Disney does nothing to benefit Belle. Both online and real worlds presented within Belle have their appeal, but neither feel fully fleshed out. The online space feels weightless, its rules are never properly explained. Why characters can physically damage each other within an online context that feels more like YouTube than World of Warcraft doesn't make much sense to me personally. You is presented as a surreal parade of multivariate avatars, something which brings to mind the dream parades of Kon Satoshi's Paprika, without half the visual flair. Despite the occasionally inspired bit of shorthand to describe online phenomena, this makes it hard to care that much about what happens in the world of you. I found myself preferring the real-world scenes. Here, though, we weren't given enough time with individual relationships, thanks to the focus on the world of you. There are occasionally great character moments, but also some that come off as unintentionally funny. A group of older women in Suzu's choir come off the worst in this case. The most mixed aspect of all is the relationship between Belle and the Beast. The film does a good job setting up an eventual reveal about the Beast, which I won't spoil here. And when we find out about the character, it's a well-earned punch in the gut. I mean, that's some seriously good stuff. But as to why Belle is so obsessed with tracking him down, or even giving these two characters, essentially the primary characters of the film, enough time together, here the film once again falls victim to having too much on its plate. Belle feels both overlong, in parts thanks to a false climax, and narratively thin. This has all led me to a fairly sad and maybe a little controversial conclusion. The only Hosoda Mamoru film I've truly loved is still Wolf Children. Even Summer Wars and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, both of which are very good, just don't completely work for me as full narratives or in terms of their emotionality. Now don't get me wrong, those three movies are his best, and all share one thing in common. They weren't written by Hosoda himself, but rather by scriptwriter Okudera Satoko. Their work together ended when Hosoda decided to handle writing on Boy and the Beast by himself. In my opinion, his movies still haven't quite recovered. Another interesting Hosoda film is actually a franchise work called One Piece, Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island. It's memorably energetic and surprisingly creepy for a non-canon film in the mega popular fantasy pirate series One Piece, but not much more than that. Here's a question though. Is my preference for Wolf Children because it most resembles a film by my favorite anime studio, Ghibli? Wolf Children almost feels like the film Hosoda could have eventually made for that studio had he not left his director of Howl's Moving Castle in protest of Miyazaki Hayao's domineering. With Wolf Children, Hosoda accomplished a Ghibli clone with a far greater degree of success than his current competition as filmic anime's top dog, Shinkai Makoto. Shinkai's own Children Who Chase Lost Voices goes beyond being inspired by Ghibli to outright aping framing and imagery. It's a little bit of a bridge too far for me personally. Comparatively, Belle feels totally and completely Hosoda's, without a hint of Ghibli's narrative style, for better or for worse. It has so many of his hallmarks, a digital world of avatars like Digimon and Summer Wars, overpowered or super genius children like Summer Wars and Boy and the Beast, somewhat uncomfortably anthropomorphic animal characters like in Summer Wars, Wolf Children, and Boy and the Beast. Beautiful renditions of recognizably Japanese countryside locations. Now, Shinkai also loves to portray the beauty of the Japanese mundane, but unlike Shinkai's hyper-beautification of real spaces, Hosoda hews to a more realistic representation. The film also focuses on the turmoil found in the inner lives of children and adolescents, which is perhaps Hosoda's most prolific preoccupation. Hosoda has a unique eye for the sort of quiet and not-so-quiet suffering children can go through, often caused in his films by the absence of a parent. If we're only focusing on Hosoda's meshing of this theme and his presentation of online escapism, Belle could be considered his masterpiece. But a movie is more than just theming, and as a narrative, Belle just falls a bit short for me. It has some great visuals and wonderful sound design. The soundtrack is fantastic, fittingly for a movie so focused on the liberatory power of song. Belle also left me with a lot to think about, especially as someone who creates content online. The problem was that it just wasn't that enjoyable of a movie-going experience. Now, your mileage may vary, so it's likely worthwhile to check it out to discover if the world of you does it for you. Alright Mina, thanks for watching this review. The more I've thought about this movie, the more I've wanted to talk about it, including about some more spoilery content about the movie's ending and how things are or are not set up. I've rarely encountered a movie that I felt so ambivalent about as a full picture while being so interested in the theming, so I can congratulate Hosoda on that at least. Plus, that great soundtrack. I'm currently prepping the next video, which will be a return to a historical deep dive on a minority group within the modern Japanese polity. Look forward to it, and thanks to everyone who's been subscribing, commenting, and even joining our Patreon of late. Getting feedback helps make maintaining the channel pretty fulfilling. Anyway, everybody, I'll see you again soon. Mata ne.
What, you think you're some kind of Jedi with your hand around like that? Hey!